Have you ever really thought about how a landscape of, say, fire and ice can completely shape a nation? Well, today we're jumping on a whirlwind tour of the Nordic region. This is a place where the very ground people stand on dictates how they live, how they work, and even how they connect with the world. Let's dive in. So, we're talking about a huge area here. Our journey's going to take us all the way from the icy stretches of the North Atlantic to the shores of the Baltic Sea. This one region is home to 5 different countries. You've got Denmark, Finland, Iceland, Norway, and Sweden, and also 3 really unique self-governing territories: Greenland, the Faroe Islands, and Åland. And believe me, each one has a story that's been carved right into the land. All right, here's the game plan. We'll start with the big picture, get a feel for the whole region, and then we're going to zoom in on each country. We'll see how everything from towering fjords and endless forests to volcanic fields has really, truly shaped the lives of the people who call this place home. So if you had to pick one word to define the entire Nordic region, it's gotta be contrast. Seriously, this is not a land of, gentle rolling hills. It's this dramatic collection of geographical extremes, and they're often right next to each other. I mean, you can find landscapes that are complete polar opposites, sometimes within the same country. We're going to see these gentle, fertile farmlands that support really dense communities, and then boom, vast, totally untamed lands of fire and ice. It's this tension, this back and forth that makes the whole region just so fascinating.
Let's see this contrast in action right away. For our first stop, we've got a tale of 2 neighbors, Sweden and Denmark.
Okay, so they share a border, they share a ton of history. But you know what? Their landscapes could not be more different. One is absolutely vast and very sparsely populated. The other is tiny, flat, and packed with people. And this difference has led to 2 completely different ways of life. So here's Sweden. It's a really long, narrow country with about 10.6 million people. But this map tells the real story. Almost everyone is clustered down in the south. The huge northern 2/3 of the country, well, that's what the Swedes call glesbygd. So, what is glesbygd? It's just a Swedish word, and it basically means an area where people live really far apart from each other. Think low population density, mostly out in the countryside. You gotta understand this concept to really get the Swedish landscape. Now, let's flip the coin completely. This is Denmark. It's the smallest Nordic country, and it's got 6 million people packed onto a landscape that is famously almost perfectly flat. And this lack of mountains hasn't just shaped its cities, it has put the bicycle right at the heart of daily life for millions of Danes. All right, now we're heading west, to a nation whose entire identity has been carved out by its dramatic, rugged relationship with the sea: Norway. And this is a fjord. These incredibly deep inlets of the sea, just wedged between towering cliffs, they are the defining feature of Norway's gigantic coastline. They're basically beautiful scars left behind by ancient glaciers. And just so we're all on the same page, a fjord is a long, narrow bay with super steep sides or cliffs, all created by a glacier. This one geological feature is it's everything to Norwegian geography and identity. See, once you go inland, the terrain is what they call kuperud, unbelievably hilly and rugged. It's beautiful for sure, but it's really hard to build on. So what happens? Most of Norway's 5.6 million people are literally squeezed onto these narrow strips of land right along the coast. This makes boats and trains not just convenient, but essential lifelines. Okay, from Norway's rugged coast, our tour is heading east to a landscape that isn't shaped by mountains, but by water. Welcome to Finland, famously known as the Land of 1,000 Lakes. You know, that nickname, Land of 1,000 Lakes, it's actually a massive understatement. Finland has almost 188,000 lakes. This watery landscape, left over from the last ice age, is woven into the very fabric of Finnish life, with the enormous Lake Simon right at its heart. With the population of about 5.6 million, Finland's about the same size as Norway, but its story is deeply, deeply intertwined with Sweden. For centuries, Finland was actually part of the Swedish kingdom, and that history lives on today. Swedish is still an official language, which really shows you that deep cultural and historical connection. All right, for our final stops, we are heading way out into the wild North Atlantic. We're going to explore a land of pure extremes and the unique self-governing territories of the Nordic region. First up, Iceland. This is a country that was literally forged by geological violence. It sits right on top of a volcanic hotspot on the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, making it a true land of fire. All this constant activity creates this raw, almost alien landscape of active volcanoes and vast black lava fields. But it's also a land of ice. Right alongside all those volcanoes, you have massive glaciers that cover huge parts of the country. This incredible fire and ice combination makes Iceland's landscape unlike anywhere else on the planet. So, what does all this fire, lava, and ice mean for people? Well, it means that huge chunks of the country are simply uninhabitable. With just 390,000 people, Iceland is the most sparsely populated country in all of Europe. Finally, let's take a quick look at three really unique autonomous territories. You've got Greenland and the Faroe Islands, which are part of the Kingdom of Denmark, and then the Åland Islands, which belong to Finland. So while they're not fully independent countries, they govern most of their own affairs, creating these distinct little societies within the bigger Nordic family. And the diversity here is just stunning. On one hand, you have Greenland, the world's largest island, which is pretty much an immense ice sheet where life just clings to the edges. And then, in total contrast, you have the Faroe Islands, this tiny, green, treeless group of islands where steep mountains just plunge right into the stormy North Atlantic. And then, nestled in the Baltic Sea, you'll find Åland. Now, even though it's technically part of Finland, its heart, its language, and its culture are all Swedish. This kind of unique status just perfectly captures the complex, overlapping identities that make the Nordic region so cool. And that brings our tour to an end. From Swedish forests to Norwegian fjords, from Finnish lakes to Icelandic volcanoes, we've seen how the land itself is like a silent character in the story of every single Nordic nation. It decides where cities get built, how people travel, and what they value. And that kind of brings the question back home, doesn't it? How does the ground beneath your own feet shape the story of your life?